So, Mark, did you see that picture from Mirage in 1995, the sports book? They put up odds on who shot Mr. Burns. Everybody in the US wanted to know this was a big summer hiatus. And did you see those odds? 70 to 1 for Maggie.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about now and how much, that culture was different back then with shows taking, each week you discuss them and now everything comes out at once in one big thing. But the real question is how many showrunners tipped off somebody that they know so they could go cash in on that?
Yeah, I do wonder how many people bet on Maggie, considering it was the longest odds. And, I don't think this was a real bet because I don't think they were allowed to do that. So maybe people can chime in. I think it was more for fun. But these days, it would be a real bet.
Yeah, I mean, you can bet on anything, even like maybe Little League Baseball pretty soon. Who knows?
Obviously, the big news of the week, Mirage closed, so we'll open with that. It has officially closed. On the last show, I recorded it from the last night at the hotel, but the casino closed. You had your final volcano shows, but my favorite tweet was this. It was just, what if the Mirage was never actually there?
Oh, play on words. Very good with the pun there.
One other interesting thing that Mirage did was they tricked all the influencers who went there to film the last show. Normally the last show would be at 11 p.m., but they also did a bonus show at 11:30 p.m. And then the next day they had a closing ceremony. Elaine Wynn spoke, a lot of big people there, and they did a closing show during the day. So everybody who filmed it to put the last show up on YouTube, probably not happy about it, but we got extra shows.
Yeah, I think that's good for the people, and that's all that really matters. They'll probably still leave the last show up there. So who knows? Most people probably wouldn't realize that it wasn't technically the last show, but cool that Elaine got out there and spoke a bit about it. I mean, it would have been good if Steve Wynn wasn't, the way he was and in the trouble that he could have come out and said something, but at least we had one of the wins there. So it's good to see because it's such an iconic property and it kind of kicked off the Vegas we know now. And it's still kind of shocking that it's already going away because we have older stuff that's, still hanging on. That's not as pristine as this property was.
Steve Wynn didn't make it out for the closing, but he did put out an interview to some newspapers, including the Review Journal, where he talked about how Las Vegas was sort of stagnant before Mirage. They hadn't really added any new casinos for a long time. And after Mirage, it was just a building boom. And this really did usher in the new generation. So he did pay some love to his OG mega resort, but not in person. Maybe they would have just tarred and feathered him anyway if he came. So he wasn't invited. I don't know.
Yeah, probably best for him not to, take away from the closing of this and be kind of the spectacle. So good choice on his part of staying away and just doing a release. But what I noticed that was interesting is it closed, they demolished it and built the entire property in 2 years? And you would think that construction stuff has gotten better, more efficient and all that stuff. And we're seeing all these places take 3-4 years to do something similar, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, 3 years for Mirage to turn into Hard Rock. It's already built. So, I mean, obviously they have to build a guitar tower and they're building a lot of new stuff. But Mirage was not the first thing on that property. And this is just a reminder that Las Vegas is cyclical. And Grandpap D, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's great on Twitter. You should follow him. All kinds of old historic Las Vegas stuff. Talks about how El Deserito was an auto court with a gas station dating back to 1929. Then San Souci opened in 39 and it was built as a hotel casino 55 to 57. And then in 63, it became Castaways, which was there till 87 when they demolished it and built the Mirage. And then in a few years, we will have Hard Rock Las Vegas, and I'll show you the concept art of what it's going to look like. So a nice little evolution. Sad to lose Mirage, but I guess it just reminds us that this land is always evolving.
Yeah, and don't be surprised if something else happens sometime soon. Like, we thought it was ending with Trop, and we never really expected this, but just goes to show that nothing is totally safe. In the future, you never know, like one day, who knows if Bellagio fountains remain. I should knock on wood for saying that, but I mean, it wouldn't shock me at this point.
Yeah, I think that they're going to be a while before they go, but nothing is safe. Nothing is sacred in Las Vegas. TI is also going after Mirage customers. That was a story this week. They came out with this promotion. They're going to match comp offers from people from Mirage, and they also have a 35% discount, 2-for-1 cocktails, other things. If you're a Mirage guest, you have to show your card. So go stay at TI, get a similar location. Smart marketing for them.
Yeah, I think it's pretty genius, and I'm glad that somebody's picking up on it. But it seems like they had this locked and loaded. If you look at the dates, it says for April to October.
The other, I don't know, thing related to this and the closing of hotels that I saw was somebody tagged us on X saying hashtag droneplosion for us talking about Trop. And I love this hashtag. We need to make it go viral. Droneplosion. Let's do it.
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it. We need a drone show above, when the building comes down, and maybe some drones filming it all too. Like, let's do an epic drone, light it up, everything would be really cool.
So while I was down at Mirage, I did get to grab some video of what's going on at the old St. Regis Tower at Venetian. That's that half-built tower out front, and we've seen some weird construction. It looks like the construction is not on the tower itself, but on the facade and maybe something they're building at the bottom. I still have searched and don't see any announcements. Maybe somebody in the comments can let us know exactly what it is, but that's what it looks like right now. So they're moving along with that construction, and I don't have anything else to say, but hopefully it's something cool.
Yeah, it's weird that this has just been sitting there forever, and now they start doing something and they don't really tell you what's going on. And I don't know. It would have been great if they ever finished it. It would have been cool if they would have done something. It would have probably been gangbusters over the last couple years with everybody spending money right and left, hand over fist, and especially on the higher end properties and the nicer rooms.
Yeah, good stuff. So hopefully somebody knows what's going on there, but it looks good, looks high quality. Can't wait to see what they bring there. So we did get some news on the Trop Bally's GLPI sort of front. We've talked about how Bally's doesn't really have a path towards building their Chicago casino. So how could they build a casino in Las Vegas? Well, a familiar name bailed them out and came up with this deal in Chicago. GLPI, that's the same company that owns the land at Tropicana that they're partnering with there, is basically going to fund the construction of their casino in Chicago. GLPI will own it. Bally's will lease it. Could we see a very similar deal made here where GLPI kind of steps up with more of the funding and helps Bally's get off the ground here in Vegas? I think it's probably more likely now.
Yeah, this is what we've seen all over Vegas the last couple of years. We've talked about all the, trusts and everything that are buying up the land, but leasing it back to for them to run the casino and stuff. It just kind of boggles my mind. I know, cash flow is a crux and all that stuff, and this helps with those things, but it seems like a reverse mortgage, and the land is the most, valuable thing you have. And if you don't own it, it just seems counterintuitive to what you would want as a business person. It seems like they're doing a reverse mortgage on these casinos, or what does that lead to 20, 30 years down the road? And do we see them not invest as much in the properties, stuff like that? Like, what I kind of fear what this looks like in 20 years.
Well, for Bally's, I think this is good because they got no money. And so the fact that they're able to get somebody to help them build a casino in Chicago, I mean, they get a casino in Chicago that they wouldn't get otherwise. So they're just lucky to have that contract. So, I mean, we'll see. Maybe just getting the Chicago thing dealt with and the financing for that will allow them to finance the casino in Vegas. They don't have to worry about that, and they can sort of free up stuff. We'll see. But I think this kind of makes it a little more likely that Bally's can actually build something on the site. So we'll see. I mean, we still got years and years, as you point out. We don't build anything in a year or two. So we're talking 3-4 years before we can figure this out. But at this point, we're now Tropicana going away, implosion coming in a couple months. What do you put the odds of the stadium actually getting built? I mean, obviously, we don't know any inside information. We're just two middle-aged white guys on the internet. But what do you think?
Yeah, and I'll say I think they had to sell like 2 of their other casinos, or the property of the casinos, to them as part of this deal. So maybe they'll give up a couple more of their casinos throughout the country and stuff. But that just, they're losing assets right and left to build this other thing that they don't even own. I don't know. It's a weird setup. I don't know how that will all play out, but what would I put the percentage of for, the Athletics coming in at that spot? I'd probably say like 35-40% at this time, and each day it shrinks a little bit more.
See, I think it's up higher. I think we're at like 65-70%, but I do recognize that it's not, that it could not happen, but everybody's behind it. So we have the state funding bill, we have MLB behind it. I feel like that has to push it over 50%, but we'll see. We shall see. Bally's, what an interesting company. I think it makes it interesting covering this company because we know that they're sort of trying to be a big boy, but they're not quite there yet.
I put it like high percentage that the stadium gets built somewhere in Vegas. I just don't know that it's that site. So we'll see. But yeah, Bally's is interesting. Their CEO, we talked about a couple months ago with his interview, and basically like, I don't want to lie, we're broke without saying we're broke. So it's been fun.
Hey, give him credit. He made this deal. He's getting things done. So they're also getting things done at the Sphere. We've talked about all the different acts, but they never had an EDM act. And they announced this week their first EDM act. And in fact, it started as a New Year's Eve only show where it was going to be a one night only thing. And then it turned into 3 nights. So that's good. I was reading this article in the Review Journal and I just felt so old and outdated with some of the words being used. And Anima, is that the name of the artist? I don't know, but this is going to be, I mean, come on, EDM at the Sphere. This is perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy when you think about it because we've been talking about how they've gone after the same type of band, the same generational influence type of thing. And we're like, oh, they're trying to stay away from the young people, the ravers, stuff like that. I thought they'd go like contemporary or like more modern music first, but they jump all the way to the front to like the young raver group, which we always thought they were staying away from because of money and damage and all that stuff. It's kind of interesting to see them do this and then open it up from 1 show to 3 shows. So they must be seeing a lot of interest or think that they'll sell really well, which is cool to see. And maybe this opens them up to new ideas and trying different things too.
Yeah, so just as a reminder, we have the UFC coming in September. You have this. So we are starting to get some momentum behind all of these new acts and new bands. And it does seem like Sphere is sort of moving forward and branching out slowly, but branching out for sure.
Yeah, I think that's what we've been all asking for a while now. So they're making their steps and it's good to see.
So to downtown, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about Four Queens, how they're renovating their North Tower. That's the tower that sits on the Fremont Street Experience. We didn't really get any renders, but they shared on social media this week some sort of renders. They're not the best quality, but we can see sort of what the room looks like. They're very small snapshots into the room, not incredibly impressive. But did you see the shower? They have this weird shower thing that's going to be a body. I don't know. Did you see that? It's cool.
Who's in charge of this? This marketing. It's so bad. It looks like it came straight from 1996. Like the border they picked. I don't know if that's the effect they were going for. I hope so. I don't know that it was the right choice, but it looks so terrible. Just the setup. It reminds me of like glamour shots that you'd get from like school or something. It's so bad, but I will say the shower looks pretty cool. It's good to see them updating it. I just hope they fire whoever this firm is that put this thing together.
Well, they clearly put out like a design brochure that was given to them or something like that, but why not give us individual pictures? It just makes it hard to see. Clearly, they just scanned the brochure and put it in or whatever. But so yeah, cheap. It's nice to see the inside of these rooms and those showers, man. I've never seen a shower like that in a hotel room. It doesn't look like anything like, I don't know, new or off the realm. It's just this big sort of shower arm that allows you to get that fancy shower experience. People pay, tens of thousands of dollars for those car wash showers. And it looks like Four Queens is sort of going to have one.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the Japanese toilet, but for the shower or something. Maybe these have been big, but it was a while ago and they found them on discount and they said, let's slap these up there instead of putting in a rain shower and everything.
Well, it's Four Queens. Now, Four Queens is owned by the same people that own Binion's. So we'll go across Fremont to Binion's. And they just changed their tip policy for dealers where all the dealers get to keep their own tips. And there's a big debate out here in Vegas about this, whether it's good or bad. I think in general, when I've talked to dealers, they like keeping their own tips, but it's very rare these days. Most of the time, tips are pooled. A lot of people think it leads to better service because people know they can provide better service and actually keep the tips that they get. But yeah, if you want that sort of hometown thing, go down to Binion's.
Yeah, I always enjoy it when it's like that. Hooters was that way. It stayed that way with Oyo, and there's a couple other places. It always ends up being my favorite places to gamble because the dealers seem more engaged. They're happy. Maybe they're just putting on a face because they know they get to keep the tips, or maybe this is totally anecdotal and I just got lucky. But it does seem like it adds to the vibe, and everybody seems to have a little bit more fun. I've always been for it. It does kind of stink if you get like a table that you get put on a table that just people don't sit down. You never get a chance. You don't get the split if another table's doing well, stuff like that. So I can see both sides of it, but I've always enjoyed it when they get to keep it. And I think they always appreciate it a bit more when it's that way.
Yeah, for sure. I think, it's strange that you don't get to keep your tips, but I love to hear the discussion on both sides of it. I know everybody has an opinion here, so let us know in the comments. As a reminder, we have our Patreon. $5 a month gets you access to our weekly after show. I'm going to give some Mirage chips away to our Patreon subscribers in the next week or so as well. $5 a month, patreon.com/MTM Vegas for all the info. Thanks again to everybody who supports us over there. So Eataly has a pop-up, Gnocchi, Gnocchi, however you want to say it. They're going to do a pop-up there And it's going to be July 26th through 27th and August 1st through 3rd, August 8th through 10th. And you can get Casio e Pepe, Bolognese, all kinds of different gnocchi.
Yeah, it's great to see, something new come in there. And I love the Eataly setup. I know some people don't really like it as much, but I find it to be, nice when you enter in, you see that, the smells you get. They have some good vendors in there. So it's good to see something new added to it.
For sure. And another good thing, Neon Museum has announced that they're moving. So they have that location off North Las Vegas Boulevard, not in the best neighborhood, north of Fremont Street, so not in the tourist corridor. And so they've been looking for a while to move, and now they've announced they're moving to the Arts District, which is, I think, brilliant. It's a great place for them to be, sort of halfway between downtown and the Strip. They don't have a location yet, though. They have two locations that they're scouting. One will be like a 35,000 square foot location. The other will be on floors 9 and 10 of a parking garage where they'll have a 60,000 square foot outdoor display, 47,000 square foot indoor display. I think this might be the new parking garage that the city is building. We talked about that a while ago, but they didn't confirm the exact location. I mean, there's more space in the garage. It is a little weird for a location, though.
Yeah, that's that kind of caught me by surprise there, I don't know. It'd be weird. What are you doing? Oh, I'm walking through a parking garage full of signs. I like the way they have it set up now outdoors. I think it's a cool setup. Hopefully they can find a spot that's similar, just bigger. I do think the location, the move would help them a lot. Arts District is perfect vibe for them, for what they're doing, and it kind of matches really well. I think it's the best spot they could pick in all of Las Vegas. We were happy when the Pinball Hall of Fame moved and got a ton of space because it was kind of cramped in there. And I think this is just as important, if not more important, because as we talked, so many things are coming down, and this is a way to preserve the history. So it's cool to see them get more space. We know they basically are out of space. I'm kind of leaning towards the not parking garage, but I'm guessing that will be the cheaper deal.
Well, I'm hoping with the parking garage that they would enclose it and make it actually like real space, not like just put the neon signs on top of stripes or something on top of parking spaces. But the other thing is, if it's the roof is the outdoor display, I mean, now you're talking about putting those neon signs on a 10-story roof where you probably would be able to see them from elsewhere. So it could add in that way. But either way, it's good to see that they're moving to the right place. And they're definitely going to draw more tourists in the Arts District compared to up north where they used to be. What a treasure that we still have all those signs. And hopefully the more that they can get, the more money they can get, the more they can restore as well.
Yeah, there's just going to be more drunk marks coming in, though, if they're at the Arts District, just stumbling down the street and getting yelled at.
That's all right. They can handle you. They can definitely handle you. So another up...
That sounds so weird.
So another quick update on Wynn and Westgate, the Vegas Loop. After the last episode where I showed you the construction update on Virgin's Vegas Loop station, people asked, when are the Wynn and Westgate stations, which basically, as far as I understand, were finished months ago, or at least the tunnels were finished months ago. So we don't know the status of these stations themselves. So I'm sure they're doing some logistics there. But I searched everywhere I could look and I can't find any information. So the stations are sort of done. We know that, but there's no opening date. I imagine they'll probably just announce it and open them really quickly once they're ready. But as of now, there really isn't a Vegas Loop because Resorts World's still considered part of the LVCC Loop for their website map purposes. So we don't have the wider system yet. And I imagine when they're ready to launch that, we'll see Wynn and Westgate come online. I don't really know.
Yeah, this episode's, construction updates with no info brought to you by Mark and Shawn.
Hey, we're answering people's questions
I know.
And doing it. So hopefully we'll learn something soon. They should be open. That Encore station, they broke through Westgate a long time ago. Virgin, they've almost broken through too. So that station's pretty far. I don't know. So last thing, I stayed at Virgin like I talked about on the last show. I made sure to get a regular room in the Canyon Tower. We were staying on a comp night. I made sure to stay in the Canyon Tower, which is the original Hard Rock Tower. And this is a very Virgin room. And I previously had stayed in a suite, which was definitely nicer, but it had a similar vibe, same couch, kind of artwork, stuff like that. I think this room is pretty good. It's held up pretty well. You asked before if it was going to be run down, anything like that. Didn't feel that. Got to experience your beloved carpet like we briefly mentioned on the last show. So every time you walk to your room, you get to see that.
Yeah, I don't want to be like stumbling at 2 a.m. walking through that carpet. I think it just adds to the distortion. But I think the room is nice. I was talking before the show. I've never really, put one and two together, but the bed kind of looks like a pull-out couch, which is a little bit weird. Just the design of it. The headboard kind of looks like the back of a couch. And then you have like the footrest thing on the one side, which you mentioned could be a problem for people that are taller, but it kind of gives that vibe. But I think the room's nice overall. I would say there's maybe a little bit too much furniture. Did you feel like that when you're in there? Like it feels like it takes up too much space. Maybe get rid of some tables or something, or the couch is a bit big. But I think it's a good setup and it looks like it's holding up well.
Yeah, it's holding up well. It didn't feel too cluttered to me. It's an interesting room because it has a giant door that sort of blocks off the bathroom area from the main bedroom, which actually helped out a lot because the air conditioner was struggling to keep the room like cold because of the windows and stuff, but at least blocking off the bathroom area, it kept the air sort of in the room, which was nice. But my biggest complaint, I think, is the bedding. I mean, the sheets were really cheap quality. The pillows were really cheap quality. I've stayed in a decent number of Hiltons in my life, which is the hotel brand for this. And this felt like a step down from Hilton's, like very base level, like Caesars-esque sheets, which I didn't appreciate. Bed was fine. Everything else is fine. The other thing I didn't love, and this is total nitpicking because this is the older tower, is just the texturing on the walls. It's very like 1990s old stuff, but I like the room. It holds up well. Great airport hotel, like I've said. The casino needs to be lightened up. I really do hope they spend some money on that. But overall, I've enjoyed my stay there. That neighborhood is a little iffy if you start walking around, but if you go to the shopping center where Ferraro's and the CVS is, Shaq's Big Chicken, there's a lot to eat there, and that's not too bad. But you head across to where like the White Castle, 7-Eleven stuff is, you're in for a show.
Yeah, I'm sure late at night it gets a little interesting there, but I think it's a solid property. You've always said it's your favorite airport hotel, and I think it's got good bones. They just, with them taking over the casino part of it and kicking out Mohegan Sun, maybe they'll update it a little bit and make it more cohesive and everything like that. I think the rooms have always been pretty solid. And I noticed the mountain of shade you just threw on Caesar's properties with that sheet comment.
Worst sheets. Caesars has the worst sheets. MGM has much better sheets. Not luxury. I'm not talking about silk soft luxury 4-season sheets. I'm just talking about regular Hilton sheets. They don't have them. I don't know what to say. It's just they're very hard, rough, if that matters anything to you. Not a huge deal, but overall, pretty good place. A lot of fun in that transition. We'll see how it goes. I wish it well. I do enjoy being in the property. I think it's grown on me tremendously over the last few years. I've spent more time there. We said this was a comp from my wife playing there a couple months ago, which was pretty generous. She didn't play all that much. And one other interesting thing as we go to check in is because it was a casino comp through Mohegan Sun, there wasn't any like upgrades. We did try, because I have diamond status with Hilton, to try to like talk our way into something better, even though it was in my wife's name. But anyway, they said that they won't change anything or do upgrades because it is a casino comp. So that's one of those fallouts from there being a separate hotel operator and casino operator, is they're just paying each other, partners, not all the same entity.
There's not as much leeway. They can't work magic as often. So we'll see how it plays out in the future.
Well, this was a long show, Mark. So let us know, everybody, what you think about everything we talked about on this supersized show. Mirage finally closing, hashtag Droneplosion, everything else that we discussed so much on this show. EDM at the Sphere, are you excited for that? Hit us up in the comments. We do 2 shows a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, and we'll be back in a couple days with another show. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you next time.
Four Queens was the highlight for me, for sure.
Those rooms, that shower.
Have a good weekend, everybody.